Welcome back to Speak Up Queen, the podcast where we empower, uplift, and celebrate women who have reclaimed their voices to inspire others. Today, we are excited to welcome the inspiring Bambi Lin to the show. So, without further ado, let's welcome Bambi Lin to Speak Up Queen.
Well, thank you so much. I'm so excited. I'm glad that we finally figured out this isn't a Google call, it's a Zoom call. So glad we got that figured out.
Bambi, what was the most challenging limiting belief you had to overcome, and how did breaking free from it help you reclaim your voice?
Oh my goodness. Okay. So I would say believing that I wasn't worthy. Ever since I was a little girl, I felt like I was always second rate and I was always the black sheep. And so I didn't have a voice. So so I guess it's a combination of all of those. I don't know if one woman has only one definition of who she, thinks she is and what the world says she is. I think that there's many that, catapult us.
Can you share when someone's words or actions made you feel small and how you found the strength to rise above it?
Oh my goodness. I think that since I was a young girl, I did come from a very abusive, alcoholic home life. We moved a whole lot when my dad was too rough, we would leave. And then I just felt like there was so much trauma within our lives. And I'm a little older. So back then, that trauma, we didn't talk about it. You didn't share what was in your home, what was going on. So you kind of like felt like you lived in a globe, that you were the only one that things were going on. And you were looking at everybody else's life around you and their lives seemed normal. But then as you got older, you realized their lives were just as bad as ours. We just weren't allowed to tell our secrets. So I think that, it didn't give me a voice because we couldn't tell our secrets in our homes. We couldn't tell, there was no way I could ever tell anybody that my grandfather was sexually abusing me, because there was too much on my shoulders to tell that. And I think that's way with every child. I think our voices were just taken away and we didn't know how to express it until we did get older and became safe and not just in that home.
What safety resources, spaces, or tools have most impacted your healing journey?
Well, I did become a born again Christian at 16. And I think that began my journey of understanding who I really was. And that no matter how dirty I felt, God came in to clean me all up. My grandson just recently, I was talking to one of my grandchildren. I have 13 grandchildren. And I was talking to one of my grandchildren and we were talking about Jesus and how Jesus comes into our lives and he takes all the dirtiness of our lives and he makes it all clean. And so he asked me if it was like, he woke me up in the middle of the night and he said, Nana, I ate chocolate. Does that mean Jesus has to spend all this time? How much time is it going to take for him to clean my heart from all the chocolate? But my relationship with Christ and the journey that I took on to know who he is instead of what I thought he was, and to replace my negative words to his positive words that were set within the word of God. That was a turning point for me. And to realize too, is that I don't have to be somebody else. I am the only Bambi in this world that he made. I'm the only one that has my DNA and the only one that has my fingerprints. I don't have to pretend to be anybody else but myself. And the more that I get to know myself and rejoice in who I am and find out my dislikes and my likes and not have people control me, what I'm supposed to like and what I'm not supposed to like, but to give myself safety and be in a safe net instead of allowing other people to tell me what I'm supposed to do and what I can't do.
What was the first step you took from feeling silence to finding your voice, and how did that step change your life?
Wow. I came from, I've been married a couple times, and my second husband, I was a victim of domestic violence. And in our home, I tried so hard to tell people within our church and go to the pastor, tell the pastor what was going on in my home, tell my Sunday school, women's groups, what was going on in my home. But I really felt like I was silenced because nobody was listening. And not that I wasn't speaking, but that nobody was listening. Because, especially within the church, you're told to pray more. You're told to win him without a word. Don't talk. You're told to, walk away when things are bad and just go pray. You're told to just whatever he likes, give it to him to try to make that peace and everything like that. You're not told that you're more told that it's depending on you and on your shoulders than it is for him to take responsibility for himself. So I think that was such a disservice to me because it kept me silent and it kept me from ever having the problems be solved because nothing was solved. It just kept getting worse.
What's one powerful lesson you've learned about self-worth, and how do you carry it with you as you continue to grow and inspire others?
You know what? I think that comes with women getting older. I think in our 20s and our 30s, a lot of times we become who other people want us to be. And we do what other people want us to do, or we look at magazines and we think this is the way we're supposed to, look. We look at magazines and say this is the way our house is supposed to look. This is the way we're supposed to do things. When really, when you get into your 40s and your 50s, you begin having your own taste of life. You start becoming who you were always meant to be. You start getting a voice that sometimes our voice has been lost in our 20s and 30s. So when I wrote my first book when I was 52 years old, and and it gave me a voice. It gave me forgiveness, it gave me deliverance, and it gave me a voice. And it also taught me that I can become all that I wanted to be. It was just, now is the time. Now is my moment. And I'm taking that moment and I'm running with the moment, and I'm opening up those doors that need to be open, and I'm closing those doors that needed to be closed a long time ago. So I just think that women start becoming who we were always meant to be in our 40s and our 50s.
If you could tell your 17-year-old self one thing, what would it be and why?
Okay, what age?
17.
17. Oh my goodness. Well, I had a teenage pregnancy at 17. So, what I would tell myself at 17, hang on for the ride and know that this is just a chapter. Our lives are full of chapters. And when we are in one chapter, doesn't mean we're going to stay in that chapter. So just hang on for dear life, crawl yourself out of the pit, and know that when you start crawling yourself out of the pit, you're moving on to the next chapter. Don't stay in the chapters too long that you're never allowed to stay in, but continue to keep moving. And when you're 55 years old, you're going to look at yourself in the mirror and think you're really pretty, awesome, and beautiful.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
I really love it. How do you set boundaries to protect your energy and peace? And what have you learned from this practice?
Oh, boundaries. Boundaries are really hard. It's a big word. It's a word that I didn't grow up with, so to speak. But it's keeping your voice. It's keeping who you are and being authentic. A lot of times now that it's Christmas, I tell this story, that for my grandchildren, I dressed up as somebody from Star Wars one time, and I dressed up somebody from I was a dinosaur one time, and I have no idea how those people are supposed to act. But here I am dressed up in those, and I'm acting as if I know what a dinosaur is. I'm acting as if I know what this super whatever Star Trek person is. When really I don't know. The only person that I do know is myself. So take off the masks, take off the costumes, and to be yourself, to be authentic to yourself. We don't have to be anybody else. I can finally rejoice in myself and know that I have been fitted from the foundations of time with a superhero cape, because Jesus gave me a cape that I don't need to be a hero in anybody else's life. I don't need to look for a hero. I can be my own hero because I thrived and I survived my life to be where I am today.
Mhm. How do you stay grounded when challenges come up now compared to before?
I'm more subtle. I don't beat around the bush, as much anymore. And I want to be at the table talking about myself. I don't want somebody to be at the table talking about me. I want to know that when I'm at that table, that I'm just as worthy enough to be at that table. I don't need the crumbs on the ground. I don't need to be picking up all the crumbs off the ground because I think I don't belong at the table. I need to leave those crumbs on the ground, and I need to sit at that banqueting table because I'm just as deserving as anybody else is at that table. And that's where the banquet That's where the banquet takes place. Not down on the ground thinking that I'm nothing but, all the crumbs on the ground.
How do you define thriving today, and what mindset shifts or practices help you embrace that definition?
Okay, how do I say that again? How do I what?
Define thriving today, and what
Thriving.
is thriving, and what mindset shifts or practices have helped you embrace that definition?
I think that, thriving is becoming who I was always meant to be, finding out, the flaws and fix them. Also finding out the why in my life. Why was I born? Why was I created? Why is it that from the foundations of time, God placed me into my mother's womb? Why was I the one that was placed in her womb? Finding out the why in your life and understanding that you were created for something. You weren't created for nothing, you were created for something. And I believe that my thriving is around the table with women that have been broken, that need to be set free. I believe that my mission and I thrive because I wrote my story so other women can write theirs. I think it's so important that we as women, we lock arms with each other and we become a tribe with each other instead of always being enemies. We all have a story, and sometimes our stories are the same as other people. And I look at my own life and I think that my story creates somebody else's first aid kit, that they needed help from behind me and they're watching us. Everybody is watching us and how we're plowing the field through life. And it makes me thrive because I know that I'm on a mission and I know that I have a purpose and I know that God has a plan. And that plan is to help the next person behind me to thrive and to grow and to be brave enough to live in their story, to accept their story, but thrive through their story.
The last question. What made you decide to be featured on Speak Up Queen, and how does it feel knowing that there's a safe space for women to share their stories and inspire others?
Well, I loved your podcast name. I love the fact that we are queens, because I always tell people all the time, I put a crown on, I have at different events that I have been at, I've put a crown on women's head and I've said, you are the daughter of the king. Fix your crown. Fix your crown because you are royalty. And I think that once, as women, if we begin to see ourselves the way that God sees ourselves and we begin to see ourselves the way other people see ourselves, we wouldn't be so hard on ourselves. So this is a safe place to be able to say, you know what? I'm a pretty badass. And I am excited and thankful that I've been on this journey. I'm thankful that I fell. I'm thankful because when I fell, I got back up. I'm thankful now for the life that I had because I know that that life that I had also has plummeted me into the life that I have now. That life that I experienced, that trauma that I experienced and the hurt and the pain doesn't define who I am. And I have the right to redefine that. I don't have to be that. I don't have to even be a survivor. I am a person that has thrived and in my story, and my story has just given me a platform. And that's all that it has done, is given me a platform to be able to talk to other women and to help other women to be set free, to be set free.
Oh, I love it. Bambi, before we started recording, you were talking about an email that you received about women statistics. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, when I just got on and I was looking at my Facebook, I was looking at my Instagram account, and somebody had posted a picture of a house, and the meme said, "This is the place that a woman is not the safe. This is an unsafe place for a woman is within her own house because the abuse and the domestic violence and being victims of domestic violence takes place more in the house, and it takes place with people that and that say they love you, and they say that they are, they're for you, but really they're against you. And I am such an advocate for women that have been victims of domestic violence. We've been silenced. And it's time for us to open up and to speak for the truth. Tomorrow, I'm actually speaking at a celebration recovery group. And while I was here, while I was waiting for you, because I was on Google and you were on Zoom, while I was waiting for you, I was making these little cards and I'm making them into a ring. And each one of these rings say something, that we tell ourselves, that we're guilty, that we're ugly, that I'm always going to be this way. And, that I'm a tramp or I'm a whore, all these words that we tell ourselves because of the stories that have been told to us. And what I'm going to do is that I'm going to have each woman add what they think they are inside of this chain. And then there's a verse in the Bible that says that God has set the captive free, that the prison doors have been open. And, and the prison starts within our mind. And I'm going to have the women hold this chain. And as I say, the prison gates have been open, they're going to be able to rip this chain, because I want them to have a word picture in their mind, that they don't have to be the things that other people define them. And sometimes we end up in being victims of domestic violence because we have believed a lie that is not true. And so when we take care of that elephant in the room of where we have been and the abuse that we've been through, when you get rid of that elephant in the room, which is the partner that is victimizing you, you then can start looking at your own self in your mirror and realize, why did you pick that? And then start the healing from within, because we pick the people that we love on the condition of our hearts. And my prayer and my goal and my heart's desire is to have every woman to be able to look in the mirror and realize who she really is and who she was created to be and who she was born to be. These things are only setbacks in our lives. They're only chapters in our lives. We don't have to live in that setback. We don't have to live in that chapter. We can take the chains and we can break them and we can be set free.
I love it. I love it. I love it. It's just each time I am one of your powerful badass queens comes to this podcast and share your stories and your insights and the way you see life, I'm like, it's just like firing me up, because I didn't know how to start this podcast. I just started because it was really on my heart. It was a big mission, but it was on my heart to just create a safe space, because today is my birthday.
Well, happy birthday.
You. And 17 years ago, I was silenced. And I promised myself today, 5 years ago, when we left South Africa, that I was going to find out who am I. And who am I without the limiting beliefs, the people pleasing, the lack of boundaries. And 5 years later, here I am, almost on my 30th episode of Pickup Queen. And it was really just my mission. It is really, I had to go deep. Why did I start my journey? Why? What was the bigger plan? And I always say, Lord, lead the way. Lord, lead the way. I don't know what I'm doing, but lead the way. You know what I need to say with my flaws, with my authenticity. Just let me show up. And here we are, creating a safe space for women to just feel empowered by each one, different generations. That's the best part for me, is the different generations that comes together. It is just like, I just love it. I can't, my cheeks is like sore, because I feel my cup is filled when I hear these stories, and there's just knowing that we all have a reason why we live. We all have a reason to share our stories boldly. Yeah, it's just amazing.
And then to know and to realize that it is from the word of your testimony that people are set free. If we don't tell our stories, if we don't tell the heartache of our stories, people can't be set free, because they think that they're the only ones. They're living with inside of their homes thinking they're the only ones, because we're refusing to talk. If we would understand it's through the word of my testimony, it is through the word of my story that somebody else has a first aid kit. It is our stories that are plowing the field for somebody else to be able to get themselves out. And if we understand that the Bible talks about that your beauty, your ashes turn into beauty. So sometimes in our lives, stuff has to be burned up. There's stuff in our lives that we have to go through that process of letting go and layer upon layer. But you know what? When we let all that go and we go through layer and layer and all that stuff is burned up, we get to start again. We get to rebuild. We get to rebuild how we want to. We get to have the bathroom how we want the faucet. We get to have the lights how we want the lights. You know, we get to have the furniture the way we want the furniture because we are rebuilding that all those ashes. So I tell people all the time, don't worry about the ashes. Don't worry about the ashes because we have an architect that's going to rebuild. And, you know, the whole story, if, you know, I tell this a lot, but it's so, I just wish that I can somehow, you know, like shake it into people. You know, when you think about the oyster shell, the oyster does not have a pearl inside of the oyster until it's gone through something, until the parasites have tried to eat it, and until the sand has tried to come in, until the waves have crashed it, until the hurricanes have moved it from place to place. There is no pearl inside of that oyster until it's been through something. You know, so when we can open up our lives and see the pearl that is inside of us, that's when we know that we've gone through something. And I want to have that pearl. I want to say, yes, I've gone through something because I want to be able to meet people where they're at and be able to tell them you don't have to stay there. And some of our hurts and our pains is because we think something that is not true. We have told ourselves some stories that aren't true because we've believed the lies that other people have told us. You know, I believed the lies that my ex-husband used to tell me, that I was nothing but trailer trash. You know, I was not going to amount to anything. And I've written 2 books. I have my own website. I've been on almost 100 podcasts as a gift, as a guest. So I don't consider that a trailer park girl.
No.
So we just have to stop feeding the lies that other people and find out who we really are and stand upon those things. And if you have to march around your house by putting index cards around your house, you know, describing who you are, then you do it. You march around your house and you just continue to say, I am faithful, I am loved, I am beloved, I am rich, I am precious. Continue to speak forth those things because then it gets rid of the lies that have been spoken over you.
Bambi, thank you so much for your time. I just love this time with you. I hope you have a fabulous day. And yeah, just thank you.
Well, thank you so much for having me. And I'm so glad that I am part of your 100 episodes. You know, what an accomplishment. You should be so proud of yourself. Absolutely put that cape on because you are a superhero.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you, Bambi. Have a good day.
You too. Bye-bye.